we are primarily a cultural magazine, but that doesn't mean we're apolitical. I've sometimes maybe shy away from political controversy, but trying to figure out how do we tap into and catalyze conversations around small dinner tables, often for what you say the audiences of your podcast, these like those in holy discontent who are often, our audience tends to be those kind of typically local, though there are some national figures, but typically kind of local community shepherds. They could have an institutional leadership role or just be like a beloved, trusted neighbor in a neighborhood, who are increasingly beleaguered and challenged and don't feel like they're getting the vocabulary or tools to sort of sow into hopeful, constructive, common ground building work on the ground, in their communities. And we're trying to provide succor and imagination and unlikely exemplars and even companions for the journey through the pages of a magazine. And I love, and that doesn't mean we avoid critique. Like, we do have pieces where we are quite critical and, but we're trying to say, we do believe like 2000 years of Christian social thought can animate how we, try to exist in this fragile democracy, how we think about treating all people as infinitely dignified, how we, increasingly I'm getting pulled into, okay, well, what do you as a magazine think about all these trends and quote Christian nationalism, so these political currents are happening, and I feel like my job increasingly is like, okay, we want to stay orthodox and address like the deeply pre-political human questions first, but there are still implications if you're starting to see certain trends across on both far left and right that are fundamentally like dehumanizing and I would argue heretical as how do we sort of define our turf? I'll just close by saying I think people probably know me as being like aggressively committed to hope and not being overly a grouser or overly like focused on all the negative. And I think my question these days, and even trying to understand this historically, is like, insofar as we're in a moment where it feels like movements are largely fueled by fear and you could argue hate, or just let's just say fear, sort of fear-based fuel, which I think is a function of politics seeping into every part of life, because like the political juice is often fear. It works really well. Is it also possible simultaneously for hope to fuel a movement, or hope to fuel like a multi-tiered community of people animated by a philosophy grounded in self-sacrificing love? And I hope it's possible. I think historically you do tend to see these two movements happening simultaneously, but it remains sometimes, I think, in the age of like what gets clicks and where are people really galvanized when they're outraged? You see like if you're just looking at like mass numbers, and there are moments you get discouraged and you're like, gosh, is being a publication that's trying to be constructive and imaginative and a reforming one, not so much a revolutionary one, is that just going to stay very boutique and small, and it's not going to really mushroom because people are so addicted to the outrage machine? Mm-hmm. So it's an open question. I genuinely don't know, but we're betting on hope. We're just even for my own sanity, I can't go too far the other direction. So that was a very long-winded. I'm sorry I went so long, but you gave me so much space, so I just thought, well, I'll give you the meandering river of my life.